I don't know if there's rules about technology to any degree.
There's rules.
Yeah, exactly. Because like, while there might not be specific beliefs, I presume technology would just creep in if there weren't hard stops to it. Because someone would be like, "Hey, did you
There's
hear
rules.
about this? You hear about this thing? Like, isn't it amazing that I can like learn how to fix anything if I just search something on my little pad here."
Did you hear about this thing? It's called an app. They call it Timu. You can get silencers ordered to your house. It's awesome.
For some, look at this Jebediah.
Have you ever heard of X Hamster?
No, dude. For like, you don't even have to marry these girls, and they let you see everything.
You're listening to the Art and More podcast with your hosts, Nathan and B.R. Nathan is a Canadian illustrator with a couple years of military experience, and B.R. is a British anarchist that moved to the States. Both are passionate shooters and community builders. Together, they run the Seaburn art page. Enjoy the show.
Intro? We never do that.
Yes, we do.
Intros are stupid.
No, we don't.
Guys, this podcast does have an intro, and it goes a little something like this. Hey guys, I'm BR, and you're listening to
Nathan.
The Art and More
shit!
podcast.
I fucked it up. We're talking over each other.
No.
You'd think we'd have a hold on this after like 3 years.
And this is why we don't do intros.
God damn it! All right, cold open.
Hey guys,
right.
Welcome back to the Art and War podcast. This is an introduction. As soon as I'm on the spot, everything just falls out of my head.
So we are talking to Sam of Falcon Ground Link, and this is gonna be a really interesting discussion because Sam has grown up in a very traditional, non-traditional manner, I think is the best way to put it. Essentially, I mean, hell, how's the quickest way to summarize this? This man went from living as essentially Amish through to being like a bigger tech nerd than the majority of you listening, and absolutely being one of us. He's a longtime listener of the show, and
Thank you.
appreciator of this culture and this general vibe. So thank you, Sam, for joining us. I'm really excited to chat with you. We're good buddies, and happy to have you on the show.
Pleasure. It is a pleasure. I'm looking forward to hanging out with the boys for a bit.
Hell yeah. So I guess we'll just be jumping right into it. Like, you come from a particular sect of like super old school traditional Christians that are essentially Amish, like anti-technology. Can you like give us a better summary than I'm given?
Yeah, so basically I grew up completely separate from what everyone probably listening to this would consider to be like a normal culture. I was separate from, I had no media influence, didn't have access to the news, radio, anything like that. Basically grew all our own food. The easiest way to think about it is I grew up Amish, so we were on a farm, a number of people, small community with basically a number of folks that all decided that they wanted to be the hardcore pacifist Christians together and trying to live their existence as according to certain parts of the Bible. And if you guys want to deep dive that stuff, I know you're super religious on the show, so I'd be happy to tell you more about that as well.
That's kind of the fun thing about Art and War is like we occasionally do have deep religious talks.
Yeah, and it's kind of a mix of backgrounds and faiths.
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating subject.
You guys have definitely been doing that more recently, so it's an entertaining thing to watch. Obviously, I have since left that at the ripe old age of around 18. I got kicked out with pretty much nothing but the clothes on my back, and kind of had to figure it out from there. And it's been a fun ride the entire time. I'm a lucky human being, and I've been enjoying every minute of it.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I mean, you landed on your feet after leaving all of that. So there's a lot of questions to get into. I think the first thing on people's minds will be like, okay, so why did he leave? Because we talk a lot about intentional communities and like building up, like a group of like-minded people and to be self-sustaining. And it sounded like you had a lot of that.
It's all of that, yeah.
Yeah, from birth. So actually, were your parents? Were your parents part of this sect before you were born?
yeah, for quite a while before I was born, and then I came along and they started regretting all their decisions. No, I'm kidding. No, they were there. I was born there. Obviously, all my siblings were born there. And yeah, and then I just decided that it wasn't really for me, and I wanted to go and pursue my own thing, freedom and such. So
Mm.
here I am.
So, what made you want to leave? Was it a feeling of like I'm missing out on the world? Like you there's so many questions I want to get into, but like, what was the initial thing that kind of made you start to like think I need to be somewhere else?
Not really that I was like missing out on anything. Like it's interesting that you said a minute ago that this is kind of like the ideal situation. Like
It's what a lot of
living,
people,
yeah,
based, like,
based.
praising
Yeah,
God, no technology, intentional community, like, hell yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to.
it's extremely based, and I would just say they're like if you're trying to do that, if you're trying to live a life which is committed to something greater than yourself, then it's a really good way to do that. And I have utmost respect for them for continuing to do that. I obviously still know plenty of people that have committed their entire lives to that, which is very different from what I've done. But essentially, what the decision came down to for me is I'm like I'm a very adventurous person. I like tracking down new information and new knowledge, and I kind of felt that I was sort of stagnating there. And at a certain point, I just decided that I didn't want to be there anymore. So I made a very good case to the people in charge that since I didn't want to be there, it didn't make any sense for them to want me to be there either. Because why would
Mm.
you want someone who doesn't want to be there? And that's kind of how the story started. They were relatively accepting to that fact. I was somewhat what's the word? I left the right way. I talked to the right people. I wasn't an asshole about it. I didn't
Yeah.
get kicked out. So I know a lot of
Yeah.
people here like if you leave the Amish community, you never get allowed back. You're excommunicado. And no, I am not John Wick. I am not excommunicado. I still have a good relationship with the people that matter there. So I'm happy
Yeah.
with that.
I was actually going to ask, like, how is your relationship with everyone that's still there, and what was it? Frictional leaving the community, but it sounds like it wasn't bad. Like you hear all sorts of horror stories, but I imagine like,
Oh,
being Amish or any of those communities aren't really a monolith, and everywhere differs.
yeah.
People mostly focus on the bad stories, I think.
Well,
Yeah,
to give you a little bit of perspective, I don't think the way that I did it was necessarily par for the course because most of the other people that I know, I have a family member that also decided to ditch, and it didn't go as planned for him. As
Oh.
he's not as welcome there as I am. So there's there's pros and cons to it for sure. But just the way I guess I'm just again lucky the way I did it ended up working out in my favor where I could go back and visit my family whenever I want. I still have good communications and open lines with the people that matter, and it all seems to be going quite well. So I have no complaints as far as that goes.
yeah.
And so
Uh,
you're,
if you
oh,
don't,
sorry.
so no, you go ahead. Sorry.
Silly.
The,
Sorry. Oh
the,
gee. Oh geez.
you don't hear, usually, like, you're here for the parts that get edited out, usually.
Yeah.
Um, what was I gonna say? Oh, so in your former community, is there any kind of like? Because I know the Amish have like some sort of thing where they go out in the world and it's like, yeah, you can go out and see what's going on, and the thought process is you're gonna go out there, see what these heathens are up to, and be like, nah, I'm gonna go back
Yeah.
to the community, and then it's kind of like a bit of a split on those who do and those who don't. Is there anything like that in your community?
Yeah, so the technical terminology for that is rumspringer. Not
Rome?
really, no.
What?
Rumspringer is what it's
Interesting.
called.
I've
Where
heard
you
that
where
word
you
before, and I don't know where.
it's probably in a movie. I
Yeah.
forget what it was called. There's a hilarious movie about it's an Amish parody, but anyway. Um, uh, Basically, not really, but kind of like if you, especially more recently, they have been giving their kids an opportunity to go out and kind of experience um, reality and like the world as we know it.
Yeah.
But it's not something that's mandatory. It's not something that's yeah, I guess it's kind of a case by case, but it's happened. I mean, I have other friends who have left and decided that that's not for them. So it's it's not it's not weird to do that, but it's also not like par for the course. It's not something that every single person does.
Yeah, so the masses, or like the majority of people stay there.
Yeah, and I would say this, like, from like every one of you listening knows what normal is, right? Well, reality check. Normal for you isn't necessarily normal for someone else, and a lot of the people that I grew up with, that's normal for them, and you're the weird one. So they don't necessarily want to go dive into something weird and unknown. They would kind of prefer to do what they know works. And I'm not going to lie, it is a good life. It's not a bad life at all. I think probably quite a few of the listeners here would be tempted to go and like participate in this type of lifestyle, and that's a completely acceptable um, thought process to have, because like being with a bunch of other people that all have the same goals in mind as you, all have the same motivations, and are all willing to put in whatever work is necessary to get to wherever you need to be, and do it in a harmonious, peaceful, prosperous way, is it's like it sounds really good on paper.
Yeah.
And so like yeah, it's an interesting perspective for sure.
This is kind of a weird question, but can people just join Amish communities? I don't know how insular, or I imagine this may also differ by the community too. But
Yeah,
people who are just sick of modern living just decide to go and possibly be accepted. Is that a thing? Have you ever seen that?
yeah, so that's not a weird question, and this is me, I guess, advertising for them, because yeah, you can do that, and I know of like one or two people that have, during my experience with them. So it's not out of the ordinary. They have visitors, they have people that come in and like want to see what it's about, and some of those people, if they've done enough shrooms, they do decide that that's what they want for the rest of their life, and they send it. And it's they don't just let anyone join. It's like not something that most normal people would want to do, because like there's a lot of sacrifices that you have to make. Like kiss goodbye to Fox News. You're never going to see a TV again in your life. But those are
That
the
would be fun.
sacrifices that some people are willing to make. So
Hmm.
That's actually really interesting. I didn't know how insular communities would be or accepting of outsiders, but I can actually see people just getting sick of the modern world.
well, Nathan, it depends, right? Because like they'll be accepting of outsiders as long as the outsiders are accepting of them. It's just like, I mean, it's human nature, you know. Is if you show up there and you start like um, challenging their perception of what reality is, as far as like faith, etc., you're probably not going to last there for long. But if you're like invested in their way of life, then sure, they're obviously looking to like bring people that agree with them into the fold, as it were. So yeah, it's an interesting situation for sure. But I've definitely seen it. To answer your question, it's not completely out of the ordinary. So if you want, I could send over your application.
Next thing you know, Nathan's like, "All right, guys, I'm retiring from the show. I'm gonna go live in a compound, and I have been tasked with raising the cows and cutting the wheat."
There's a little Mennonite creamery a couple hours from me, and they have the weirdest hours. I think they open at like 6 a.m. and they close at like 1 or 2.
Based.
But holy crap, it's some of the best food I've ever eaten in my entire life.
Good food, dude. Really good
Oh
food.
god,
Like,
it's so
oh
good.
man, like I grew up being very spoiled with food. Fun fact about me, I'm still terrified of menus. Like I go to a restaurant and I'm just like, I'll take whatever he's getting, because you just get served what you get served, and it's always good. You never
Yeah,
have to make any decisions about like what food you're having for dinner. It just happens, and it's delicious, and I love it.
It's whatever. Yeah, I mean that's one question. Like, I kind of want to get into what life within one of these communities is like. So, like, is that meals like a family thing? Are they a community thing?
So it's like a mixture, D, all of the above sort of thing. They have quite a few communal meals where basically everyone gets together and you all eat together. And then breakfasts, generally speaking, just because you got to get your day started, are not like that. So you'll eat breakfast with your family after you get up and do chores and stuff like that. And then it's either lunch or dinner. Um, you'll get together and meet with everyone, and in a big like dining hall, if you can imagine that, the huge commercial kitchen and a crew that's specifically there full time to just make food for everyone. And let me just tell you, they are good at their jobs. They should be paid more because they are not paid anything.
So, I mean, in a way, like, would you consider it a commune?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like it's hard to put it into. You can't really fit.
Yeah, it's not like a
into, like,
communist
cookie cutter.
commune. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't really fit it into a cookie cutter. But I would say it's definitely more like the idealistic, like what you would think communism should be. But it never actually turns out that way. Only because, like, in this situation, I think the difference between this and what all the Marxists want communism to be is that all the people here have a common objective, and that is serving God and stuff like that. So
Isn't that funny that's like, because communism is obviously like a tenet of it is rejecting, the hierarchy that comes from like religion and stuff. And it's like that might be the one thing that would make it work.
yeah. I mean, it is like it's biblical. Like the very early Christians did do this stuff. Like they all lived basically in a way that made it so that no one among them had need for anything. Is kind of like that's the words right out of the Bible for it. And like in principle, that's what communism is, but in practice, that's not what communism is.
Yeah.
So
hey, the farmer kept an extra loaf of bread. We should
tickle
him.
We should
Let's
fuck him
kick
up.
his door in and take his shit. He's
Yeah.
he stole from the party.
Yep. Time for gulag.
But like, whenever I hear about places like this, I'm like, because in my soul, as a fucking Anglo-Saxon descent peasant fucking dirt farmer like lineage dude, like this sounds quite fucking nice. Like I often say, like, I don't want to be sitting at a computer. I want a good stump to break logs on at like outside my house. I want I want a wood fire based heating system. Like I don't give a fuck about any of this really. I just want to be left alone. And these kind of communities sound like something that strokes that very tribal part of like the human brain where it's like, God, why did we invent all of this extra bullshit? Like, what do these communities do for like plugging? They must be forced to plug into the main system in some way, like taxes or some other bullshit to exist, right?
I mean, it's a religious entity, so, I mean, research what taxes do religious entities pay?
That's fair. Huh.
I mean, it's so, like, I mean, I don't really know that much, like, about how they do it from that perspective, but, I mean, I don't think there's much, and, like, it's pretty lucrative being like an entity like this that doesn't have to pay into that system, because if you think about it, like, I mean, ask any business owner, taxes is a pretty considerable portion of their expenses. So
Yeah.
If you don't have to do that, it makes it a little bit easier to run a profitable business.
What's up everyone, B.R here, introducing our newest sponsor, Cloud Defensive. We've been huge fans of their lights for a while now, and if you've been listening to the show from the start, you've probably heard us mention Chad Defensive a number of times. Personally, I've got the full-size Ray models, the 1.0, 2.0, and the all-new 3.0. Every rifle needs a sling, an optic, and a light, and Cloud Defensive is consistently my go-to for rifle lights. Their durability, brightness, and top-notch design make them stand out. Whether Whether you need a rifle light like the Rain, an EDC option like the MCH or Chicro Admin, or are anticipating the EPL for handguns in 2025, Cloud Defensive has you covered. We're thrilled to partner with them, and this December, you can enjoy an amazing 20% off by stacking the 10% site-wide discount with our code ONWAR10. Plus, every purchase with our code directly supports the show. It's perfect for holiday shopping or gearing up for the season. Be sure to check them out, link in the description, and link in our bio on Instagram. Thanks guys for listening. Now let's get back to the show.
Well, and these places are somewhat a tourist destination, right?
No, not really. No.
Oh, no.
No,
Really?
like no. If you just were to show up and try to drive through it just to like look at it, you wouldn't get let in. It's you can go there, but you have to know someone like me if you want to. So
Oh, gotcha.
yeah, or you have to be local, and because they do a lot of like neighborhood outreach. They try to feed people that don't have food in their local area. They try to participate in the community as best they can, for
I love
better
that,
or worse. Because like some people think they're fucking weird, which is completely understandable. And like obviously from the PR standpoint, you have to do something about that. Not to be like complete doomer about it and say that that's the only reason they do it, because I definitely don't think that's the case. But like if your neighbors hate you, then what are you doing? So they do a good job with letting people that really want to be there and actually see value in being there on. But you're not just going to show up just to do a drive-through and be like, "Oh, this is cool. Look at these crazy people." Like that's not going to happen.
So that's
No,
what I was
that
curious
actually
about.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because the Amish have like, they have like Amish outlet stores, or like they'll have like little touristy kind of like setup. So it's
Fake.
not that. Yeah,
Fake.
fake. Posers. You guys don't even Amish.
I mean, the people that are running those places are, but like what you're looking at isn't. Like that's not like. I mean, obviously I've seen what it really looks like when you have to go and like toss sheaves or do whatever, do the farm work, and let's just say there's no tourists coming to watch you shovel manure.
Yeah. So like, what day in the life of like a teenager growing up in one of these compounds? Like, can you walk us through what that looks like?
Sure. Early to bed, early to rise. So with lots of church in between. So basically, you're going to wake up probably pre 5 a.m. Everyone's got assigned tasks that you do first thing in the morning. Like mine kind of bounced around. I had stuff to do with the cows, with dairy cows, so I dealt with that. Just general barn chores or whatever it might be. Like they have all the same problems that modern human beings have. Like you have to deal with trash and stuff like that. So everyone kind of has a job, and you get that done. Probably around 6, you'll have a breakfast with your family. And then, depending on what day it is, sometimes they do church in the morning. They call it meetings, but basically everyone will get together and they'll read from the Bible and sing songs. So much singing. It's like an unnecessary amount of singing. And then after that, you get to work. So generally speaking, a workday will start at 7:30 and at 5:30. And you'll either work on the farm or in the laundry or in the kitchen or in the factory or whatever that might be, whatever job suits your skill set best. And you do your work. Around noontime, you get a bit of a break, which either is more church or a meal, depending on what day it is. Those two are about the same thing. So if you're hungry, you better be hungry for some Bible verses, because they generally only do 2 meals a day. So you'll have say for instance it's a lunch day. You'll have lunch with everyone, which delicious. Lunch was amazing always. It's always like fresh homegrown stuff, which is just fantastic. Like the food we eat on a daily basis is shit compared to it, but that's okay. We're grateful for everything we have. And then you get back to work and you go and you work until the evening, and then again, depending on what day it is, sometimes you'll do more work later in the evening if there's a heavy workload, and then in the evening, like post work, you'll spend a couple of hours maybe with your family, and then get together and do like actual church, um, which would be like a meeting where you it's probably like an hour, hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, depending on what type it is. And you'll talk about ideas, and or some person will talk about ideas, and basically go over religious texts and more singing, because we love singing, dude. Singing is awesome.
I was
So
about
get
to
lots of that.
ask, like the modern brain will not be able to comprehend this, but what do you guys do for fun? And you just kind of answered that.
Fun. So me specifically, or the other people there, because those are two
Kind of
different
everything. Like,
things.
what do I imagine that this answer is going to vary per person? But yeah, what do you do? But what common things would people do, because their attention spans aren't blown out by social media? They're not completely dopamine addicted. I'm super curious. Like I
So
think about what I did when I was growing up without internet, and that things were so much simpler then. Sorry, continue.
yeah, no. So like, based on, like, you can probably tell by what I just kind of ran through with, as far as the schedule goes. There's not a
Blown
lot of
out,
like
ran through. Good lord.
all that stuff. Yeah, like Jesus Christ, all that stuff. So basically, that schedule doesn't leave a lot of downtime. And there's like, obviously there's good things about that and bad things about that. One of the good things is, with no downtime, you don't really need to find extra stuff to do for recreation.
You just relieved to rest.
Yeah, you just chill. Like, I never slept better in my entire life.
Yeah.
You learn how to work. I'll tell you that. But like for fun, sometimes on weekends we would play some sports. So like basic stuff, kick a soccer ball around, something like that. Nothing crazy. Spent a lot of time in the woods. Like, I grew up in the woods. I basically, every spare minute that I had from like, and that's another thing, that kids spend a ton of time in the woods, which
Hell
is
yeah.
really cool. So like, just like making a fire is something you learn when you're 6 years old. Like, out of like bow drills is like, that's pretty basic stuff.
That's
Which
honestly
is
that's
cool.
what it should be. Like,
Yes.
man has tumbled so far from what we once were.
Yeah, yeah. So it's pretty neat. Like, I mean, like making a debris hut and figuring out how to kind of protect yourself throughout a cold night, in the mountains is something that you learn when you're in like third grade. Which, it's like, ask any modern third grader if they're doing that. Like, no.
They would die in the
They're on
woods
their
like
iPad,
like a
robots.
Spartan baby.
But
Yeah.
as far as recreation, like, it's hard for me to answer that question, because like, I don't really remember ever having to make a decision like, okay, I need to think of something to do recreationally. What am I going to do? That never really happened. So whatever it was just like, it just kind of flowed. And yeah, like, if you're playing a game with your friends, or if you're out hanging out in the woods, if you're trying to shoot bunny rabbits with a homemade bow, like, whatever, do your thing, with the limited amount of time that you have. Not to say that people there don't have hobbies. Like, you can do that, you can get away with doing that. It's but it's less time, less downtime, than what I currently have in my
Yes.
Yeah.
modern, like, normal life.
Time to sit around on a podcast chatting it up with some dudes.
Yeah.
So like, did you guys do I think you've mentioned it to me before that you guys had some kind of homeschooling going on?
Yeah, I actually, I'm really blessed as far as my education goes. I had an exceptional education. All of they basically run a K through 12 for the kids that grow up there. And the student to teacher ratio was really good, as you can imagine. And more importantly than that, the educators were very invested in our education, which is cool, because not every kid learns the same, not every kid learns the same stuff, and not everyone learns at the same speed. So
Yeah.
when you have teachers that actually care about you learning and growing every day, it's like it's a really good thing. So I was really lucky to have a good education with really good teachers who I'm extremely grateful for to this day. And yeah, I also had a good high school education as well, which I generally compare to college education for most normal people. Put it this way, the public school system is shit. And I'm very grateful that I didn't go through that. Just based on the people that I know that did go through it, not dissing any of them, but
No,
they just
like
didn't didn't learn
not
the
to blow
same stuff
smoke
that
up
I
your
learned
ass, but you're a
Yeah.
smart
in
fucking
school.
cookie.
So
Like
I'm just
clearly, no.
no, I don't know about
I don't
that.
know. Like I can remove this if you want me to, but you recently got your pilot's license.
I did, yeah. No, we can talk about that. I have an aviation addiction. It's really fun. I put myself through pilot school and convinced the FAA to give me a little piece of plastic
And
that
Sam,
says that
most
I fly
importantly,
airplanes,
how
which is
long
really
did it
fun.
take you
Yeah.
from like your recent go of getting your like you did it fucking quick.
Yeah, I did it in a month, which is sort of
It's pretty
the
fucking
fastest you
spicy.
can
Like
reasonably do it.
you can't do that if you're dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was part 61, so basically it's not through like a proper school. You just do it through a flight instructor. So I basically had to do all of my self study. It was really fun actually. So I put together a strategy. Yes, I did use AI to help me like outline my syllabus and stuff like that, and tell me what I should be studying at different times. But yeah, I just dedicated a lot of my life to figuring out how
So
to fly
fucking
and
awesome.
learn how to fly. So now I'm a pilot. So the
What a
FAA
mistake!
has no idea what they've unleashed on
and
this world.
soon they will realize. No,
What a bunch of dummies.
they'll all know.
No, I'm kidding. I'm a very, for the record, I'm a very safe pilot. I'm the safest pilot in the sky, and I try to make smart decisions. I manage to make smart decisions when it comes to flying. So you guys have nothing to be afraid of. You did a great thing by
So,
allowing me to be a pilot. Keep it up.
all of
Do
what
it
you
again.
just said, we're gonna be. I'll be jumping back to the Amish stuff in just a second, but it's fascinating the full circle, like lifestyle you've had, going from like being raised completely anti-technology, and I want to like jump into that in a second, but like growing up without all of that, and then going right through to like full blown. You know, you're into your like mesh network, like comm stuff, drones, all this fifth generation warfare like craziness, and like getting your pilot's license via AI, like using everything you can that's at the bleeding edge to like put yourself in a more free and advantageous position. But like, can you remember the first time you had like fascination with technology?
That's a good question. Ever since I was like a kid, I feel like I was interested in this stuff. Because I'm only really thinking of this for the first time now that you're asking me the question. But my dad got me like a toaster from a dump.
No,
and brought it
it's
home and gave it.
fascinating.
It sounds stupid, but he was like, "Here you go. Here's a machine." And I basically got the tools at my disposal, a bunch of screwdrivers and stuff like that. And I took the entire thing all the way apart and put it all the way back together. And then I did that a couple more times with a couple of different things,
Yeah.
like radios out of old trucks and stuff like that. Stuff that I wasn't supposed to do, but it was fun and I was able to do it. So why not? So I guess I've kind of been, I've been interested in that stuff since I was a little kiddo, but I've only really been able to like maximize it more recently. And that's not to say that I'm an expert at any of
No,
this stuff.
you
I'm
have
just interested
have
in all of
like
it.
again,
So
not blowing smoke up your ass.
it's
You just
fun
have
for
an
me.
incredible brain. Like you have a really fascinating way of like learning things, and like your process as someone like me and Nathan. Nathan's much more technically minded than I am, but I've got such a creative. You
I don't know about that
Yeah,
one. I
well,
just think it's
it's-
different.
You're somewhere
disciplines.
between me and Sam. Probably closer to me with the creative brain, which is like not super conducive to a lot of like more technical things, I feel. But like, yeah, no, but
Yeah, I couldn't be a pilot.
but you do want
that doesn't.
you
jive
do
with my
understand
brain.
like a lot more system
be
stuff
hilarious,
than I
though.
do.
Yes.
But I'm just here to make things pretty and
Yeah.
and to speak from the heart. That's just artist shit. Nothing actually useful.
Yeah.
But so the technology stuff, like, what we like basically said anti-technology right at the start, but like, what exactly did that mean in your community? Like, what does that actually look like in practice? Because I'm not even all that familiar with the Amish's exact approach to this stuff. Like,
So yeah, it's a good question. Generally speaking, there are like historically speaking, it's been nothing. But obviously, like in recent years, technology has like advanced massively, even since like 2000. Like, it's crazy to think that in the last 0.0000001% of human history, we've
yeah,
advanced so much, and obviously cultures like this need to adapt with that. So, you'll see like some of the Amish woodmaking factories that you can buy like fireplaces from online. Obviously, they have technology that they use for that. In my day-to-day life growing up, there was zero exposure to any of this stuff. As I grew older, and they made furniture, so in their business they started to integrate certain limited technologies. Still like network-based stuff. There was no internet, and that was part of their kind of attempt to separate themselves from the world, and more importantly, separate their deviant youth from everything that comes along uh, with the big bad
yeah,
world. Think North Korean soldiers in Ukraine. Um,
Oh
uh,
yeah. I imagine
um,
the culture shock is kind of wild.
yeah, it's interesting. So, like, definitely zero exposure for anything entertainment related. Like,
yeah.
you're simply not going to have a TV anywhere ever.
What about?
Cell phones, not a thing.
That's right.
But
What
then
about
when you
vehicles? You said like radios
go ahead.
outhold trucks. Do they have cars or like trucks or anything?
Oh yeah. So the radio I got was not for. I'm about to incriminate myself. That was a radio that was allegedly stolen from a dump that bordered our property. So allegedly. So that was not something from one of the vehicles on the compound. They did have vehicles, so they had a couple of vehicles that were used for, like if someone had to go to town. Like they weren't completely cut off. They would go, like hospital visits for like stuff that really needed hospital attention. Obviously, they don't have the resources to have their own hospital. So if something like that happened, they did have the ability to do that. But they had their own clinic. They had like pretty much everything was self sufficient. And then in the case that you had to go somewhere for something that they didn't have, you basically go to the dude who was in charge of that stuff and say, "Hey, can I please borrow one of those for a little bit?" And he'd give you
Hmm.
what you needed to go and get whatever task you needed
Hmm.
to done.
And then
So
with like going to a hospital, what were their thoughts on modern medicine itself? Like, if you had to be scanned for something, like go and get like a, like a CT scan, or like any, like, did they have limits on what kind of treatments they would allow?
yeah, so they definitely subscribed to the
Yeah.
we should pray about it side of things. And like sometimes you'll see people that have like illnesses that with modern medicine should be relatively simple to treat. And it doesn't necessarily get the attention as fast as it should because like maybe the Lord wants this to happen. And
Yeah.
I don't want to apply that across the board because I refuse to talk badly about these people because they've been really good to me, and they're just generally good people. Like if you look at
No,
the whole
I
picture,
respect the fuck out of the lifestyle and principle.
yeah. But there's definitely some stuff that just isn't really looked at in the same light that like you and I, or any normal human being, normal in air quotes, would look at it. Like, oh, I stepped on a piece of glass. I should go to the hospital and get some antiseptic, antibiotic, get it stitched up. Like, nah, you should just kind of put a band-aid on it and deal with it. So, but that's okay. I mean, you come out as a tougher human being, I guess. So
Yeah, I mean,
either that or dead. So it's one of the two.
on top. True enough. On the topic of like limited treatments and preying on it and stuff, like, so would antiseptic be too modern of a treatment, or would they accept that?
No, no, that's totally cool. Like they weren't idiots. So yeah, they had basic antiseptic, basic antibiotics, all of that stuff. They had a good clinic. They've like trained doctors that they actually put through medical school, just so they could stay separate from the healthcare system.
That's
which,
really
God
fun.
bless.
I mean, I would love that. I would love to be in a strong enough community to have that resource myself. I mean, that is like a crazy lofty goal for someone who is starting from scratch without a uniting factor, like, you know, like a religious sect like that, where you can just like, hey, we need doctors, and they're like, all right, we'll figure it out. Like, you got to be fucking dedicated to build that in the modern age.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's something that I think every single one of us would want to have, is like a doctor that agrees with us on everything, you know? Because I'm sure plenty of us have run into stuff with doctors where you're like, all right, we have some foundational moral or principle differences, and like, I don't want treatment from this guy anymore because we don't agree. Like, and that's something that's come out more recently. So,
oh, I mean, more and more now, especially, I mean, in the Western world, is like, are you my doctor who wants the best for my health, or are you like literally a drug salesman?
Yeah.
And so often,
it's
like,
very likely the latter.
Yeah, or like not even drugs, but like unnecessary surgeries, like selling you unnecessary surgeries, is like,
oh man,
like a big fucking problem.
I genuinely think, and I have a lot of like a weird amount of doctors in my family in before, you know, the
Nathan,
race.
you're Asian. It's a regular amount of doctors.
But like I have in my my home city, I only had two people outside my immediate family, like two cousins, and both of them got into healthcare, and their dad, who was also a doctor. So like there's a statistically high amount of healthcare professionals, and I became the artist, unfortunately.
Hell yeah, brother.
In my family, I'm a black sheep.
Go ahead, dishonor, Nathan.
You're going to be disowned. It's okay.
Oh, that's already, you know, coming past. But oh man, I think about some of the opinions that my people who work in, you know, excellent grades, you know, very successful in their fields, and like they're not stupid people by any means, but I have learned through exposure to not trust doctors, if that makes any sense.
I don't like, necessarily. I could be wrong on this, but I don't necessarily think it's through any fault of their own. It's the
no, I don't think so either. I think it's the system that they all go through. We're trained to put them on pedestals just from, you know, oh, they're a doctor, they're so and so and so and so, and like I've heard immediate family members have some really bad, really wrong takes, and I don't blame them at all either. It's just you know, they're still people.
Nathan, let's be honest. We should put them on a pedestal. Like, did you go through 9 years of medical school? What right have you to do your own research?
Trust the science, all right.
I remember in December of 2021 having dinner with all of them for Christmas, and one of like the doctor who is the most successful being like, we can finally vaccinate the 1 to 3 year olds. This pandemic's finally going to end. And I'm like, oh, good lord! Fuck, all right,
the super social 1 to 3 year olds.
Yeah,
the super spreader babies.
Yeah, and then this is long enough after like everything was obviously bullshit, and that's still the takes that they had.
Yeah. Fuck, I mean, the other thing that plays into it is, like, if you live a healthy lifestyle, you just have less need for that type of care. Like, 100%. I think the percentage of that population that has diabetes is significantly lower than the percentage of the American population. So I guess from that perspective, they are doing something right. But that's what comes from living a healthy, hardworking lifestyle and eating good food, and not just sitting on the couch and stuffing your face with fudge rounds, whatever the fuck that is.
Yeah. Thank you, Oliver North, for teaching me what fudge rounds were a thing.
Still have never had those in my entire life, so it's okay.
This used to be true. I think I might have had one since, but I hadn't had a
Shame.
Twinkie.
Shame.
I don't think I think I might have tried one now, but for the longest time I hadn't tried a Twinkie, and that was always a thing that like Brits always made fun of the most of any American food, aside from like burgers, like Twinkies. It's like, what the fuck is a Twinkie?
Wait, say
Like,
the word burger again.
well,
Burger.
it's fucked up, dude. Burger.
Burger. Like it's like BUHGUH. I love it. I love
What?
it.
What? It's got a
Burger.
British
Burger.
accent? That's crazy. Who would have thought?
Sorry, I didn't mean to take it. I just don't hear you.
Sorry, you say
just think it's cute,
burger.
okay?
Weird.
Burger.
Sorry, burger.
Water. Water and a burger.
Dude, me ordering food is a fucking nightmare. It's like
I've been with you to Waffle House. I remember.
That's true. Yeah, just can I get some water? And then Nathan said, "Oh, sorry, he's
Oh,
foreign."
sorry. And then I pull out the my fanny pack with my hidden maple syrup. This is not a joke. This actually happened.
Yes, these all of these things happened.
I have no doubt.
What was I gonna say? Fuck. Oh, so
This-
we're going. This is the rabbit holes that you have listened to hundreds of times, Sam. So
Yes, of course.
I'm gonna reel us back in. So the anti-technology stuff. So like, what is the actual belief? Like, why do the Amish and your former community, like, what is their reasoning for? 'Cause, I mean, it sounds smart to all of us, quasi Kaczynskiites. We love the sound of that shit, but why do they believe in it?
So this is like one of the weird dualities with this is like you guys look, or any normal human being who goes there would be like, oh, these people are anti-technology, but they're not. Like they're like, sure, they're like, they don't do technology, but it's not because they're, one of their ideologies is that they don't do technology. It's just like not part of their life. So the foundation of it is based on like what they say their belief system is early Christians, like in the Bible, it's in Acts, I think it's like 4 through 12 or something like that. I failed Bible class, so don't quote me on that. But it basically it says that everyone will share everything so that no one has need of anything, and beyond that, it's just basically implementing that specific set of beliefs. So it's not that they're like against technology, it's just that technology doesn't play a role in that specific mission set. So it's like, sure, any normal person that goes there who looks at it like, oh, these people must hate technology because they don't have very much of it, but it's not like a big part of the conversation at all. It's not like, oh, we really shouldn't have technology. Like, that doesn't happen very often. Like, sure, at a certain point they probably had the conversation about should certain important people have cell phones just in case an emergency happens, just because that's so prolific nowadays. And that's something that they had to confront and decide based on their historical experience and the downsides that they see with access to the modern world and access to modern technology, which obviously, like, I mean, you guys have been on the internet. There's some horrific shit on the internet. So it's like not a bad ideology to have. Like, yeah, maybe we should steer clear of that, because what we're really trying to do is live like a Christian lifestyle based on these principles. And that doesn't necessarily lend itself to that. So why would we go anywhere near it? But it's really, it's more about living the belief system that they've decided to live, and less about saying we hate technology, if that makes sense.
No, it does, because that's like kind of the sense I guess most of us would assume, or at least I would assume, when I hear about those kind of communities, because I think, like, like, if there wasn't like a hard hatred or I don't know if there's rules about technology to any degree.
There's rules.
Yeah, exactly. Because like, while there might not be specific beliefs, I presume technology would just creep in if there weren't hard stops to it. Because someone would be like, "Hey, did you
There's
hear
rules.
about this? You hear about this thing? Like, isn't it amazing that I can like learn how to fix anything if I just search something on my little pad here.
Did you hear about this thing? It's called an app. They call it Timu. You can get silencers ordered to your house. It's awesome.
For some, look at this Jebediah.
Have you ever heard of X Hamster?
No, dude. But you don't even have to marry these girls, and they let you see everything. but
it's going to be to use the example again. The North Korean soldiers.
Instantly binging like hundreds of hours, thousands of terabytes of porn.
Have you ever heard of Vor? Do you know what a furry is?
No. Oh, those boys. Like, Asians who haven't heard of fucking bestiality.
Yeah.
Whoa. They're gonna go
we're going to go
hard
into
on
some
the
weird
furry
places
porn.
with Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yes, instantly. Rule 34. But for some fucking reason, the whole time you were just talking now, Sam, and I do apologize for this. I was just picturing showing some poor little Amish kid bestgore.com or LiveLeak.
Oh yeah, I can promise
bad.
you that the rules that are in place are specifically to prevent this type of activity. I truly hope. I hope to heaven, hell, and back that they never listen to this podcast because they shouldn't.
God bless. No one should, but we're here.
No, it doesn't lend itself to their lifestyle, but it lends itself to my lifestyle because I decided to ditch. I'm gonna go do my own thing, and this is right up my alley. So, I mean, you guys talk about guns and freedom and cool shit. So hell yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
Fuck yeah. Damn it, I had more questions on this stuff, and now I just blanked because I was like, the heating technology thing was a crux for what I was about to talk about.
Well, we haven't even touched on the fact that they're a highly pacifistic community that bases their, half of their ideology is based on pacifism, and then here I am, a dude who's just you know me, I'm a freaking gun nerd, and I shoot, quite a bit, and I'm okay at it, I'm an average shooter.
You're pretty fucking good shooter, but, I mean, that is, where to begin on that? Because, I mean, I consider myself, maybe a rung or two below a pacifist. And I think we're all probably in a similar place. None of us are, gung-ho fucking, I don't know. I would prefer a world where violence doesn't have to happen. I'm just not naive enough to think that if I, hate violence, that it will never come to my door.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head right now. And this is something that has been bouncing around on the internet for whatever reason after recent current events. I've seen a couple of people talking about pacifism and 2A and whether these things actually work together. But the definition of pacifism, I just Googled it. A person opposed to violence as a means of settling disputes. That's a pacifist. And I don't think that that's necessarily directly opposed to the Second Amendment because, being opposed to using violence to settle disputes doesn't mean that you have to be a complete freaking invalid. It doesn't mean that you have to be a weak bitch that doesn't know shit about fuck. You can still go out and train and be very capable and not want to use those capabilities.
Yeah, I mean,
but
it's
know.
something the thing. There's plenty of pacifists who would openly say, and I've talked to many of them. They would rather, if coming to a deadly confrontation, they would rather fucking die than kill someone else.
That's where I'm from.
Yeah. I mean that's the traditional pacifist. It's like the monk who would just let himself be mowed down because he couldn't imagine stopping someone with violence because it would violate everything their entire life is dedicated to.
It's a little bit naive to go about it that way, especially if you think about it from the modern context of what we've seen in the U.S. As far as evil people targeting soft targets. Where do you draw the line with pacifism? Are you just gonna pray the school shooter away? Probably not. That's probably not the best way to do it. And that's kind of a discussion that had to happen where I'm from, and I disagreed with the conclusion. What can I say?
Yeah.
I trained with my AR, and they don't. So
I'm sure there's not. Yeah. Do they even have rifles for like hunting?
yeah, hunt couple of hunting rifles, which I never saw in my entire time there because they're
You,
reserved for the upper echelon of human beings. So that's okay.
mm, that is-
There is just like any other structure, human nature plays its part, and you'll have
Your
people with
betters.
preferential treatment. Yeah, there is a
Mm.
leadership structure, but that's part of life. It doesn't matter where you go. We all live in a big community called the USA, and we all subscribe to our leaders. And until we stop, it's going to continue that way. So please fucking stop.
That it's starting to
Go out,
stop, buddy. It's
get out and
starting to
vote.
stop.
Get out and vote.
No, no, Sam.
Yeah, that helps everything.
What?
Get out and vote. Oh,
Oh
fuck.
man.
What was I gonna say? Oh, the whole pacifist thing. Like, I while I abhor violence, like truly, I do. There are people who violate others' human rights like every single day to exist, as we just discussed in the last episode. Like, I ain't gonna fucking shed tears for someone that gets slaughtered when they literally tread on others and like other people have to suffer for them to live as they do. So that's what separates me from a pacifist, and it's also what like kind of scares me about pacifists. It's like, guys, like, and I mean this in the most loving way. Like, they're often pacifists are some of the best people on this planet. Like, while a little bit naive, like they truly like, they hate the idea of man hurting man, and want to live their life in a way that stands in opposition to that. And it's like, guys, if you will not push back against the boot, like literally stomping you out, there's less good people in the world. Like, you're allowing people who would stamp out pacifism from existing, like you're letting them end you.
Well, I mean, our boy Luigi kind of talked about this in his little manifesto thing, didn't he? Hey, he
Free our
talked
boy.
about like, yeah, he talked about like the moment that pacifism is no longer an option. He didn't say that specifically, but he said there comes a time when violence is necessary, and I don't necessarily agree with him. But I'm not disagreeing with the effectiveness. Like, I think maybe some of your other listeners kind of thought this when they were listening to the last episode, but um, it's a sobering moment. It's like this is a pivotal moment in history. Like, if you're thinking about any of these current events from like the 100-200 year perspective, what happened last week is kind of crazy. Um, because this is a major culture shift, and what has happened cannot be undone. And it's changed the perspectives of many, many, many Americans. And I don't know if it's for the better or for the worse, but I know it's changed.
Yeah,
We'll
it
see.
did indeed happen.
It
and
did
from
indeed
that, it's like,
happen.
well,
We'll see where it goes.
yeah, I don't know what kind of genie just got let out of the bottle, but a genie is most certainly out of a bottle.
Yeah.
It is definitely not going back in the bottle.
um, so for you, like, I know, living in a society that was fundamentally opposed to me having, the ability to protect myself, but like, I believed, like, I think it's some fucking Anglo-Saxon part of my brain. Like, I believed in having an illegal locking knife from a very young age because I was like, I should be able to. I mean, no harm to anyone except someone that wants to fuck me up. So I'm just going to have an illegal locking knife if I want one. Like, I'm
Based.
not some little I'm not some little wannabe fucking like chav gangster sort. Like, I just believe in protecting myself. I would much rather have a fucking gun, but obviously that's not going to happen in England. But like, for you living in a pacifist society, did your mentality on self-defense, was it different before you left or after? Because now
Never
you're an
thought
avid
about
gun
it.
guy.
Yeah, never thought about it. like as a kid growing up, I was never afraid for my safety. There was never a time where this was something that even had to be a like these synapses literally never connected in my brain because it just wasn't something that I was exposed to. Obviously, when you live a life like that, you're pretty sheltered from the reality of the world as far as like the evil that exists. And it's very easy to make compelling arguments like for instance the ultimate form of pacifism where like what you were mentioning earlier where you said there are people that would rather lay down their own life than take someone else's. It's really easy to have that if you've never actually seen the type of horrific people that do exist on this planet with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just
Just
the
spend like 3 days in downtown Atlanta.
yeah, but like it wasn't really something that I thought about at all until like I kind of realized probably as I grew older that there were certain things that weren't necessarily adding up. Like you have to think that uh, Sandy Hook happened in my formative years, and like my school was like a relatively soft target. Like we didn't have an armed person at the school ever. Like and
How many
like
how many students did your school have? Just a quick question on that.
my class was like 10 people.
Holy, that's that's cool.
Yeah, small, really small. But
Yeah.
and then obviously when I as I went further in education, my high school was more kids. So I think there were like 40 in my graduating class. Um, so tons, like a huge class, dude. It's huge.
Yeah, I had like 10 times. I consider where I grew up pretty rural, and like my high school that collected like all of the surrounding villages had like a graduating class in high school of like 400, I think. So like 10 times the size of that. And I was like, and then I saw other kids who went to like bigger cities. I'm like, oh, my class is tiny. I
Yeah,
know
well,
everyone.
no, I had an average size class. Let's be honest, it was average. No, it was a small school, but like that also lends it like obviously if you're a religious institution that doesn't try to hide that, you're kind of painting a target on your back, especially in the modern age, because there's people that really don't like that shit,
Yeah.
and that's okay. They're allowed to not like it, and I support their right to not like it. However, as soon as they decide to do anything that infringes on my ability to not like them as well, then like yeah, that's it. So I mean, it really is that simple from my perspective. Like you can do whatever you want, as long as I can do whatever I want, and it
Yeah.
should be. It's the simplest way to get past any of these arguments about like how anyone should live their life. Just go about your life, do your thing. Just don't infringe on my ability to do mine. If we want to kind of segue into the next thing, I was just going to say this is something that like this exact conversation is something that kind of applies to the modern sense of what warfare is because like you were saying about pacifism and violence is no longer just physical violence. Like we live in a time period in the history of our planet that warfare has evolved well beyond just dudes shooting each other and doing horrific things to each other. And I think every type of warfare is horrific and none of it should exist. But the truth of the matter is, we kind of live in an era where every single interaction you have could potentially be part of someone's war because the definition of of the newest generation of warfare, whether you want to call that fifth generation or not, it's a war without enemies. It's a war that you don't necessarily know who your adversary is, but every single thing that's happening could potentially be part of that war.
Yeah.
It's a war of ideology. It's a war of perception, a war of economies, and a war of technology. And that's something like who really knows? Like I'm spitballing here, but recent current events could be part of someone's war. Like we don't necessarily know what the motives were behind certain people doing certain things, but it definitely changed public perception. And that is a good key to like look further into it and maybe think from a slightly different perspective and be like, okay, who stands to benefit from this? Who stands to lose from this? How could this potentially be something that's more than just a dude who's doing what he's doing? I'm not saying that our boy Luigi like wasn't acting on his own. There's a very high probability that he was, and I don't want to get too involved in that case specifically, but the nature of fifth generation warfare is such that this could be part of it, and you'd never fucking know.
Oh yeah, like you have no choice in the matter on if you're fighting in a fifth generation war or not. You could have been in it your whole life. It's like the rabbit hole is infinite. It's awful.
Yeah.
You could consider it fifth generation warfare, like the way that we are all raised to be like subservient tax cattle and not question, our good masters in the government, like paying themselves with blood money, and like all of that in a sense is fifth generation warfare. Like you're being acted against, and a war is being waged against you living in a way that is like, better for you and your interests. And it's like,
Yeah.
woo, that's a rabbit hole. Like,
Yeah, it gets really deep really quick.
yeah, propaganda, like, foreign and national influence, like your own government, foreign governments, like using TikTok to like, influence the mental health of an entire next generation of people is like,
Yeah.
it's infinite. You can
Dude,
really
once you
apply-
start looking into propaganda methods used basically forever, since time immemorial, but there's all kinds of studies and everything about what was used during World War II, Vietnam, Korea, World War I, even nothing's really changed. It's everywhere now. The only thing that's changed is the delivery system. And
it's enough to make you fucking schizophrenic.
Actually.
And I mean, it's like rightfully so, because this is a new thing for everyone. Like if you think about, like, we live in the information age, and human beings, hopefully you all believe in evolution, but human beings are evolving faster than ever before, and like really your job is to keep up, but we're very like shallow into the freedom experiment. Like to think that the U.S. is 250 years old, and a system like this has never been successful before, especially not when you factor in the availability of information, the technology and technological advancements that exist in the modern age. Like, all of this stuff is a complete unknown, and none of it's ever been tried before. So you have every right to feel nervous about it and be a little bit schizophrenic about it, because like it's an unproven system and we don't know where it's going to go. So you may be existing as one side or one party in a fifth generation war, but you may also just be living your life, and that's just the way it is. But either way, make the most of it.
Yeah. Maybe it's a collapsing empire that's fighting you at every turn, or maybe you're just doing a thing. Maybe you're just a chill little dude.
I'm just a chill guy.
I'm just a chill guy.
Just a chill guy in New York on December 4th.
No, in Idaho.
Well, he's in Idaho.
In
Come on.
Idaho with me at Jimmy John's. That's where he was.
I have receipts.
So I know for a fact he was innocent.
I saw him. He was with Nathan. Can confirm.
Definitely not a patsy. Luigi is real.
My Monster Vice... What is this? Monster Ultra Vice Guava poison that I just drank is actually kicking in, so my brain's working at...
Oh, let's go.
properly.
700 milligrams of caffeine in Nathan's system.
Exactly.
Spicy.
So
The
now
next
all I'm going to
hour is
ask
just
you
Nathan.
is questions about how the Amish jerk off. What is
No,
it to
but you're-
ankles?
More like kneecaps, but yeah.
Ooh.
But I want to
I've
know.
never seen a girl's kneecaps.
Just like I've been waiting for the right time to also get into the fifth generational warfare stuff. I've lurked the fuck out of your page, and honestly, like mesh networks, drones, drone warfare, thermal. All of that stuff scares the shit out of me, and I know very little about it.
It should. And honestly, if there's anyone out there who tells you they know lots about it, they might know more than you, but they probably don't know everything there is to know, because this is a brand new era of technology, and it's really only like in development right now. So if you're aware of it and involved in it at all, and that's one of the main reasons that page exists, is just to try and, like, in my own little inept way, bring attention to the fact that this is the way that it's probably going to go. And if you want to maintain your autonomy, you should probably know about it. Because if you get left too far behind, you're probably not going to be able to catch back up, because this stuff is developing more rapidly than you could even imagine.
It's so fast. It's I don't know much about radios and mesh network. I try. We had the fellows from Mojave Repeater on a little while ago, and I wish that I took anything out of that episode other than like, wow, I know nothing.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I get two.
You
I
would
get two
understand it.
kinds
You have
The
a
target
little bit of
audience.
knowledge, and I feel like they're really, really smart. I'm not very technically apt. Which when BR is like, "Hey, yes, Nathan knows more," it's like, no. There's basically a monkey banging cymbals in my head to get like all of the time. Like, you ask me autistic gun questions, I'll be able, but like all of that technology basically peaked in the 60s. Everything that we do and use now is a variant of a technology that's almost 100 years old.
And,
So,
you know, and like, well,
yeah.
dude, you hit the nail on the head. Like, this is a conversation that has to be had in this sector of the industry or community or whatever the hell you want to call it.
Yeah.
Because the truth of the matter is, your AR-15 is going to continue to AR-15 as long as you keep AR-15ing it. Just train with it, learn how to use it, and then move on to the next thing, because there are other areas that you should be focused on, and that if you're not focused on, you're getting left behind.
Yeah.
And you don't want that to happen. Like, yes, please go train with your guns. But the truth of the matter is, gun technology is not evolving nearly as fast as any of the other aerial, RF, any of that other stuff. Like, as far as psychological, anything, like social engineering, that type of stuff, all of that stuff is stuff that you should know if you want to maintain the level of freedom that you currently have in an age where other people are researching that stuff. Because if they're researching it and you're not, you're fucked.
Yeah. And it is terrifying, because like there's a quote that that Redbeard said to me. I was having my first goat attack 2 years ago at SHOT Show, and we were recording an episode, and the quote was, well, this entire show is basically like how make guns shoot more better, or something like that. And it was very like derogatory of like, yeah, people are chasing something that really doesn't matter. What matters more is all the things that you were talking about, like also combined with, tactics and basic infantry skills, basic bushcraft skills. The guns themselves, and I also stand by this, aren't actually that interesting. And nothing new happens. Nothing new happens basically ever. I don't remember a single neat thing from SHOT Show last year, except there was a radio setup which was streaming over radio waves directly from a camera that was placed in the hallway, and I thought that was neat. I just love that. The technology is moving super fast. Thermal technology is moving super fast, and it's getting really cheap. The ability to make your own thermal monocular with like a 326, I don't know, like pixel resolution.
Well, that is the best part about the current like technological evolution as far as firearms and firearms related accessories is concerned, is driving the prices down. And that is
significant.
It's pretty significant, and that is the best thing as far as proliferation and availability, because I mean, ideally we want as many of our buddies to have this type of capability, and then move on to the rest of the stuff that we should be focusing on as quickly as possible. And the lower the barrier to entry as far as cost goes, the better.
I agree. It's actually kind of crazy to me. I remember, 4, maybe 5 years ago, the FLIR breach was the tits. That's the meta. Everyone wants that. It's got like 9 hertz latency or something ridiculously low. It's $4,000, but this is really cool. You can mount it to your helmet. And now, 4 or 5 years later, everyone like it is considered incredibly outdated, and you can find them selling for about $1,000 or less used. The technology is moving so fast, and it has come down in price so much. I was mentioning the homemade monocular. You can make a 326 pixel. I don't know the technical terms, but it's a fairly good sensor that works to fairly far. Thermal monocular. You can make it on your 3D printer for under $300, including all the component electronics. That is cool as shit. That is really, really accessible. And I find like the DIY market, as well as weirdly China is kind of spearheading a lot of this technology, like SDRs, thermal, all this crap. I might be an idiot. I'm kind of getting all of this, secondhand, and I don't possess a really good understanding of what I'm seeing.
Yeah, no. I mean, I feel like that's most of the population. Like, there's very few of us that are out there that are actually developing this type of tech. That specific task is reserved for the most intelligent engineers among us. And
we're just drinking from the fire hose.
Yeah, that does not. But however, that does not give us an excuse to just completely ignore it, because like we don't really have a choice but to maintain a certain level of capability, because the individuals that want to subjugate us will have demonstrated that they will try to do that by whatever means possible. And if we don't take advantage of some of these like what seem to be small evolutions in the equipment and technological space, then we will get subjugated, and that's just the way that goes.
No, 100%. It's the thing Mike Kaczynski hates the most. I'm like, I want to be left alone to live a more simple life that doesn't rely on all of this shit. But at the same time, if you just crawl into your fucking cave, like, they will use this technology to enslave you, which is exactly why Ted got to the point he did in the first place. But it's, like, you really can't just push a boulder off a cliff to defeat this shit. Like, you need to be better at this stuff than the opposition. And
you're going to die if you don't have a suicide drone swarm. You need loitering.
Real, 100% real. No, like, but just like the very basics, like these days, like not having thermal and counter thermal is like a major fucking disadvantage. Because the second, like, Nathan, up where you are, your local SWAT team, because we ended up fucking talking to him with old Loveless, or like,
that was
one of the guys.
That was hilarious. That was a time.
It was fascinating hearing from them, like, oh, we only just got PVS 14s, and it's like, okay, there is so much to learn from that very brief exchange of information. It's like, okay, there's rural SWAT teams, and it wasn't the most rural SWAT team, but a more rural SWAT team.
They're running surplus PVS 14s, like old.
Yeah, they're running surplus PVS 14s in 2024, and it's like, okay,
that guy ran into another one of my friends yesterday. Funny enough,
you guys need to stop whatever you're fucking doing to end up talking to these guys so fucking often.
he was walking in the arboretum with his wife, and they were both wearing nods. He borrowed my set so they could go together. She doesn't have hers yet. Yeah, and he just like pulls over and walks over, like no red and blues. He's just like, yo, hey, yeah, I was just like looking for kids doing drugs, but fuck, that's really cool. And they just ended up talking about nods for a minute.
Not the first time he's seen that set. That's funny.
Yeah.
But like it's really fascinating to understand that as a concept. Like, think about how many rural SWAT teams have thermal capability. Like, a lot of people can swing it for like search and rescue efforts. It's probably a more prolific technology than we know. And straight from that, like, okay, how effective is all of your, like, let's be honest, $5,000, $10,000 of fucking equipment every motherfucker has stacked up over the years. A lot more than that for most. I'm being very fucking conservative here, gents. Liquidate.
Would you buy one gun?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, you got one set of fucking cries and some mid plates. But what the fuck was I saying? Oh, so like think about how prolific technology like that is. Okay, so you're out there in like $10,000, $15,000 worth of kit. They do one scan of the tree line, see your fucking ass glowing because you have no counter thermal. Like that that puts all of the fucking training and investment you've put into that stuff to like it makes it borderline worthless if you can get picked off the second a guy has the like one more capability than you. And it's
Yeah.
I fucking hate that, but that is the reality of the age we live in.
It's reality, and it's something you gotta embrace, and you gotta face it head on. And I mean, this brings up something else, because like a lot of guys listening to this are gonna be like, okay, but if I go to Relv and I try to buy one of their cloaks, I'm like out $500 or whatever they're charging for those things right now, and like I can't afford that right now because I got to pay my rent. And you know what? That's completely understandable. That's where
Yes.
you have to start thinking from different perspectives. You don't necessarily need to go out and buy a thermal monocular, the best of the best, right now. What you should do, however, rather than just being like, okay, if they have thermal, I'm fucked, you should
Guess
think
I'll
about
die.
alternate scenarios. You should think about, like, what can you do to at least limit the effectiveness of that on you, given given that you get put in a situation where that actually plays a role. And I mean, early warning, stuff like that. There are very affordable, very simple things that you can do to make yourself more bulletproof when it comes to some of the most advanced technologies that some of these places are deploying. And like, I know like every department is going to vary, but it's not uncommon these days for a relatively basic rural force to have some sort of aerial asset, like whether it's drones or thermal drones, or something like that. And you don't really stand a chance against that if you're in their vicinity. Once you're in their vicinity, you're done. Like, if they have a thermal drone and you don't have a hide and proper thermal camo, you're sort of done. And even if you do have thermal camo, there's still a chance that you're done, because it's not 100% of the time.
Yeah.
But that's what you need to be thinking about. Like, what can you do to kind of limit the effectiveness of this stuff? I mean, I think aerial stuff, like we've been seeing what's been happening in New Jersey, and who knows what the hell is happening down there, but just with like tons and tons of drones in the sky. There's so many different storylines on what's actually happening, but this is bringing awareness to the proliferation of aerial assets, and this is not something that's out of reach of the normal American citizen. Like, go get yourself a basic drone. At least dabble your toes in what it actually looks like to have that sort of capability, because I'll tell you, it is an incredible capability, and once you start, it only gets better. Like, sure, a little DJI is great, but once you have that, you're gonna realize what limitations it has, and you're gonna want something that will be able to conquer those limitations, and that's something that you should be aware of. If not like seriously invested in, you should be aware of what sort of powers that actually gives you, because you're going to miss out. You're going to get left behind if you don't at least like try to get involved in some way in this type of stuff. I'm not saying go out and buy a $30,000 commercial infrared thermal equipped drone. Like, that's silly, but do at least start, so that if that becomes a necessity at some point in the future, you have the knowledge that it takes to do that, and like have that type of capability available to you, or at least know how to use it if it becomes available to you through other methods.
Incredibly based.
Well,
I'm
not to
I'm
be like, hey, consume, but what would you recommend as an entry level drone for people looking to get into this stuff?
Oh, this is going to sound horrific, and there's going to be so many people that hate me for this, but I say just go get a DJI. It's the simplest drone to use. It's extremely basic. You send all of your data to the CCP. It's not a huge deal. At least you're into it. And honestly, like, maybe you're not that big of a fish where the CCP actually gives a shit what you're flying your drone over. That being said, if you have the funds to get something that is similarly capable, or at least remotely capable Just like because DJI has absolutely nailed the UI and UX. It's just like the way they fly is just so simple. Like I swear to God, I could teach my dead grandmother how to fly one of these things.
I mean, you
Um,
basically did because you showed me how to fly one, and I'm like a technophobe. I don't give a. I try to avoid this shit, and though I'm pretty sure I almost took someone's head off. Like, it was like it was mostly all right. So if I
yeah,
can
it's simple.
learn, you guys
And,
can.
yeah, and that's the whole idea here is just to get your foot in the door and start learning about because even one of these extremely basic like maybe a couple of $100 on Black Friday drone that you can scoop from Amazon. Like all the worst things you could possibly imagine. Buying a Chinese drone from Uncle Jeff. Um, like it is a good way to get yourself at least somewhat involved and to understand what sort of aerial capabilities are out there. And then you can expand from there. Because the biggest thing with drones specifically is understanding your mission set, and you're not going to be able to understand it unless you try and figure out what the limitations are, what the advantages are of these different subsets. Because if you just deep dive FPV and you build your own FPV stuff and then you realize that it has no application in your area or your arena, then you're out a couple $1,000s into a hobby or a capability that you don't really actually need. So start small, figure out exactly what your mission set is, figure out exactly what you need, and then actually invest in a proper solution based on what your conclusions are based on that.
I was about to make a buy Chinese joke.
Yeah, buy Chinese stuff. Honestly, like
You-
let's fund our enemies as much as possible. We love that.
It'll make it more interesting. The funniest solution is always the correct one.
Yes, correct.
That's so Art and War of us.
Yes. I do have a lot of questions, and we're probably not going to have the time to get into all of this, but this is something that I ask basically everyone, and I still don't really have a great answer. My buddy Shivi from North Carolina has given me a pretty good answer, but I'm curious as
I'm
to
gonna be
your
out with those
thoughts.
boys this weekend.
Yeah, no, I may hop on a call with you guys if I actually can.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I love those guys. In regards to starting out with radios, we won't get into like Meshtastic and all of that, but as a beginner resource, and I'm trying so hard not to be like, yes, consume, get this, and it will be the best thing possible. But as a beginner radio for someone to pick up and then obviously do the work into finding out how to use it, how to actually properly employ it, what would you recommend people start out and standardize to?
I would start out by, and I'm going to preface all of this by saying that I am by no means an expert at any of this. I am
Yeah.
a hobbyist at best, and I'm interested in it most accurately. Like, I have interest in these things. I would refer you to other people that actually specialize in this stuff on social media.
Yeah.
They exist all over the place. A lot of them follow your page. You guys follow them a lot back. So if you're someone who's out there who's listening to this podcast and you want to know about this stuff, go into the guys that Art and War are following. Go into the people that I'm following and check out their stuff because you will learn so much more from people that specialize in one area. If you find a guy whose specialty is mesh networks, that's not me. If you find a guy whose specialty is one of those things, you're going to learn so much more from that person than you will from someone who's just trying to know just enough about any of these specific subjects that they can be okay with it. Because there are people out there who are like deep diving FPV. There's guys who are deep diving radios. There's guys who are actually teaching classes on this. And those are the guys you want to go to for this type of information. So I'm going to defer to the actual experts out there. I hate that term. It's super annoying, but such is life. I'm going to defer to the people that have far more experience than I do on this type of stuff, on that specific question. I'll say start by learning as much as you can before you make any purchase decisions. Because if you're like any one of us who started out in the like the gun space, or any of the comm space, any of this other stuff, the drone space, you're going to make, if you don't do your research up front, you're going to make a bad decision or two. And it's just going to cost you money. It's like not a big deal because you're going to learn a lot from it, but it's going to cost you money. And if you're able to exercise patience and actually do your research up front, you'll be in so much better of a spot. You'll start like 10 steps ahead of everyone else.
Sorry,
and reasonable. It depends.
dog-
Response.
Yeah,
car
sorry to
exists
give it.
out-
It depends.
Yeah, no, that's a very good answer, and basically the answer that everyone has given us. Sorry
It's
about
why-
my dog. There, like a car exists outside, and she's flipping out.
Like, hey, are you driving? Hey.
Hey,
None of that.
I just because I had been so indecisive on radios for so long, and since talking with DJ, I was like, all right, fuck it, low investment, just get something to learn and fail on, and then go from there. So I just picked up the, I guess, Baofeng BL 152. So it's like a,
Oh, nice.
Chicom 152
Yep.
ripoff, big old fucking green brick. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. That guys, please do not flood and go out and pick those things up just because I name dropped it. Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just getting something so I can know a little bit more.
Yeah, and that's not a bad way to go about doing it, because like a good way to get into any of this stuff is to approach it with the lowest upfront cost. So like if you're gonna go and get a UV5R, that's a good place to go. As long as you go out and use it and train with it, figure out what its shortcomings are, figure out what it's good at, and then make your future purchase decisions based off of your experiences with that piece of equipment. Because likelihood is you're not going to be able to go from 0 to 1,000 on whatever you end up with. Like, how many of you are still shooting your PSA upper that you got when you first started shooting? Like, none of us are. And that's just the way it is. And that's the way it's going to be with any of this technology that we've been talking about, whether it's drones, whether it's AI, whether it's firearms or comms. Like, not all this stuff is developing faster than we're going to be able to keep up. You're not going to be able to buy the best thing. So what you should do is, in my opinion, which no one asked me for my opinion, but here it is anyway, what you should do is get as much experience as you can for the lowest upfront cost, because then you'll be able to make better decisions based on the experience that you have without investing too much in it.
Experience does have a way of kicking the shit out of basically everything else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a true story.
It's something like, for years, we've talked to so many fucking knowledgeable people, and they point me in the direction, quite rightly, of like $300 to $400 radios, and I'm like, like, I understand these are the move. At the same time, like, I just need something not very precious. I mean, the economy went to fucking shit, like, right around the time I was looking at radios, like, seriously looking to invest, like, $300-400. The economy went to absolute dog shit, and the price of, like, living went up crazy, and I was like, okay, well, fuck that for the time being. And then I just became super indecisive on radios, and finally I'm like, I wanted to avoid getting a Baofeng, but fuck it, I would rather have some kind of ability, so if I rock up, at the very least, someone can get me programmed right so they can talk to me when I'm not right next to them if cell phones are down, like they were not too far away from me out in North Carolina. So it was like, fuck it, time to just pull the trigger on something.
I gotta give a shout out. One of my friends, absolute stud. He got me a Christmas present, and you guessed it, it's a UV5R. He pre-programmed it with his favorite channels. The first one being 16969.
Based.
Awesome.
I see.
Love you, brother. Awesome.
The coolest thing about Baofengs is, like, if the world goes to shit, if you just tune into 42069, like, everyone on there should be a friendly militia.
Yeah, seriously.
That's what all of my fucking Arizona boys were running on 42069. It's like,
same back in Halifax.
Yeah, just friendlies. No matter where you go, that's the friendly channel.
That's how we're gonna identify friendlies. 6'9", 6'9". Nice.
In the night. 420, 69. Nice.
Nice.
Nice. All right.
Oh, crap.
We just gave away everything. Fucking everyone's gonna get clapped.
OPSEC just went down the drain.
The feds just have to put on Task Force Duma X patches and follow that basic instruction, and we're all fucked.
I wonder if the new like shit hit the fan meta is now just like a hoodie, a mask, like and that what's that jacket? Where you can get Macy's.
Dude,
I went to my local what's the store? There's like Ross dress so and so. Like there's another one. There's Ross and there's
TJ Maxx or whatever.
Yeah, and then there's a third one.
Marshalls.
That's it. I went to both my local Ross and Marshalls to try and find that jacket, and I had no luck. But I did get a hoodie. That's the new meta, I think. New loadout meta.
Dude, it has been for like the longest time. Like back when everyone was wetting their pants about, the whole recce kind of, and like we've done this conversation into the dirt. Like the recce thing got retarded quickly just because like there was a sensible aspect and then trendiness ruined it, blah 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 blah. We still play in the woods, fuck you. But like that has been the meta for years. Like being the guy who has like a full-size rifle in the trunk and like a little PCC or even just a handgun on your person in like a nondescript outfit and just monitoring whatever you're out monitoring. That has always been the meta over like I'm in the woods looking to fight like a first world organization with all of the technology. Like, nah, just be a fucking dude and then be extremely spicy for like 10 to 15 seconds or whatever thing ends up being. And
look
then
what the French resistance did.
Yeah.
Like the OSS, all of that. We have all sorts of real examples through history. Look what fucking Luigi did. And that's when times are good.
Yeah.
I mean, he did what he didn't do. What he did not do because he was here.
What he didn't do while he was hanging out with Nathan.
Exactly. Getting pizza.
On December 4th.
Exactly.
8 p.m. Eastern, whatever it is, Idaho time.
Yeah. I have it on very good authority that you can fit a full-size, well, not a full-size because it's an MP5K inside of a Louis Vuitton laptop bag. And it blends in very well.
Hell fucking yeah, just chilling in the Starbucks.
Exactly.
That shit. No, I mean, like, so all of us, like, though we all like to be prepared for, like, the, like, bleeding out on a hilltop with a cigarette and a 60-round mag, holding off enemy forces, your family and friends get to safety, like, and we spend 10 to 15 grand plus on getting equipped for that, like, the really spicy thing is a cheap hoodie and a crime gun and, a fuck it attitude.
Yeah.
Like, that is the most world-changing thing you can have. And all in, it probably costs you, like, $600.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, now's the
Glock.
time to get into drop guns. Now's the time to go with $300 in cash to your local gun show. Now's the time to get into 3D printing. Because it works better than you think.
Shut down.
Maybe censor some of the spicier words. I don't know.
I did in the last one.
You did. You did a very good job.
Thank you. A 3D printed beep. Put it together. Work it out. But no, like
the times they are a changing.
They most certainly are.
This is the thing. This is the time we live in. Like, sure, we could just avoid it and talk about whatever Pilates or whatever people want to talk about. But the truth of the matter is this stuff is happening, whether we like it or not. And whether you choose to address it or not on a public platform or not, obviously I'm personally going to try and steer clear of anything that will get me put in federal prison. But like it's this is actually happening. Like the CEO of a big corporation was domed in New York. Like this is something that it's a relatively historical event, and it is changing the way people are thinking.
Yes,
and it's definitely changing the way we're podcasting. So
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
suck it up, losers.
It
Podcast
makes
will
me
never be
think
the
too
same.
about like now that about a week has gone by or whatever. I'm bad at math. By the time this
You're
comes out, like
Asian.
2 weeks.
No excuse.
I'm not that Asian. I got about half of that. I didn't get the math. Oh man, I think about basically everyone's coverage of this. The media is treating it like a vast majority of Americans don't support it. It's like chilling, murder.
Yeah,
This could
yeah.
happen to anyone. It's like, no, it couldn't. And,
No,
like,
not me.
all the talking head pundits being like, "Oh, this is horrifying. Murder's never okay." It's like, well, you didn't say that about so and so. Why are you saying that about some? It's basically showing who is corporate media and who's not. I don't
I mean,
believe any of these opinions are real. I think a lot. Yeah,
It should tell you everything that you need to know that Yelp and Google and these big corporations are actively allocating resources towards removing reviews from the place that the guy was actually snitched on. Like,
yeah,
I mean, if no one was actually on there, if people were leaving reviews that said like, "Oh, I'm so glad you guys got him," those wouldn't be getting removed.
yeah, 100%.
But you're seeing like screenshots of the comments, but if you actually go on the review site, you're not seeing the comments. And there are actual man hours that are going into making that a reality. And that should tell you everything that you need to know about how public perception is trying to be manipulated in this specific situation.
We're watching information warfare in real time.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. We are active participants in a fifth generation warfare because we should be thinking a certain way according to one side. We should be thinking a different way according to another side. And the most important thing that we should be doing is maintaining our ability to think critically for ourselves, despite all of the propaganda, despite all of the information manipulation that's currently happening. And that should apply no matter what's happening, no matter which CEO is getting
tickled.
Who's next?
Base. Who's next?
Delete that. I'm sorry.
Delete this. So Sam, what is Falcon Ground Link about?
Yes.
So it's a really tiny page that I don't pay nearly enough attention to that's basically trying to shed some light on some of the stuff that we've been talking about. The fact that I personally think that we may be focusing too much on the wrong stuff. I'm not saying that training is bad. The opposite.
No, I
think you should go out and train.
Yeah, you shoot plenty. Like Sam does competitions to his credit. Like this man isn't into this shit because he's being lax on other things.
Yeah.
No, I do it because I enjoy it. So sure, I get the benefits of being better at it because I enjoy it. But I do. I'm nothing special when it comes to competition. I'm not going to brag about that because I'm nothing crazy. But I think that we should also be allocating resources to the rest of all of these burgeoning areas of technological development, which basically are going to be the future of our existence, whether we like it or not. And that's, fifth generation warfare, drones, social engineering, psychological tactics. And these can be applied from any force. These can be applied from any direction, any specific entity. And you're not necessarily going to know who the opposing parties are. You're not going to know who your enemies are. And the most important thing you can do is be aware of the fact that this stuff exists so that you can at least start to identify it. And then once you've been able to identify it, you can counter it. And that's generally the gist of Falcon Ground Link, is to kind of bring attention to this sort of stuff and hopefully further the conversation as far as what people are actually thinking about. Because, CQB is great. I think everyone's talked about that. And that conversation has been debated to death. And that's one of the downsides of debating these things, like Recce even. Like, why are we talking about it so much? Let's not even bother discussing whether it's good or bad. Let's get the skills and then let's move on. It doesn't matter. if Reki's been talked about too much. Nobody cares because there's other stuff that's happening. You should decide what your Reki rifle is going to be, and then you should move on to the next thing. And the stuff in between shouldn't matter. And you shouldn't spend too much time debating it or figuring it out or trying to make sure you're on the right side of the conversation. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, whether you have a 14.5 or a 11.5, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Just go do your stuff and then move on to the next thing because you have a limited amount of time to get as much knowledge as you can. Because right now, knowledge is free. Information is free. It's more available than it's ever been before in the entire existence of human beings on this planet. It's more available than ever before, so you might as well make the most of that. Go get it. Go learn as much as you can. Not that you should spend a small amount of time on each thing. Like, if there are things that require you to spend more time to get better at, to make sure that you are closer to the 100th percentile, please do those things. But being at the 100th percentile in shooting is not going to help you if your opponent is at the 100th percentile in a different field that you have zero experience in. You're going to get domed. So just think about that. Think about the perspective. It's a totally different perspective. Just basically thinking about it from like the perspective of someone who doesn't have a niche and basically just needs to, like, you need to get as much knowledge as you possibly can. Listeners, go and learn about all this stuff that we've talked about. Even a small amount of knowledge about this is going to be better than no knowledge. A jack of all trades, but a master of none is still better than a master of one.
Yeah.
Well, the other
like
thing
that.
I think a lot of people get caught on is like they hear a bunch of these topics and they think they need to know all of them without considering what their specific situation is. Like, you know, they'll go down the rabbit hole of I don't fucking know, like CQB, like in yours, somewhere like where you are, Sam. Like, sure, you need to be able to like clear a structure, but like, I'm not diminishing the importance of that skill, but you'll have a guy who's like, it is his personality. It defines him. It defines who I am. But like,
Good, yeah, and
if you live out in the sticks, like a drone and map reading and bushcraft and all that kind of thing, like it's gonna do you so much more good than having like a hyperfixation on something that's trendy.
I applaud the people that become masters of those individual disciplines because you can learn a lot from those people. You can learn a lot from the people that decide that they want to dedicate their entire existence to this one thing. But I don't necessarily think that it applies to everyone. I don't think that everyone should be going and training CQB 3 times a week. Like, it doesn't really make sense. Like, I mean, I live off grid in the mountains, and like the likelihood of me having to do CQB is pretty low. So
Yeah,
I don't
if they've
dedicate a
come
lot
to
of
your
resources to it. It's too late for them. But yeah, like, just look at your own situation, think critically, decide what you should be focusing on, and then focus on that.
Fuck the trends, man.
Yeah, they don't really matter.
Be unsexy and clever.
Don't get me wrong, they're very entertaining. Please continue to debate the pros and cons of LPVOs.
Oh no, please. Otherwise, this show runs out of content if people stop being man children. Like, if we had peace and harmony, what would we talk about? Like, actually building a better future and a community of movies. It just becomes the movie podcast.
We just become a movie podcast. We're halfway there sometimes, anyway.
I guess I'm not invited.
Yeah, Sam
okay.
has seen like 20 movies in his life.
I will mail you my Redbox theft.
Yes. Yeah, you will double the amount of movies Sam has seen with your haul.
I got 15 from the Redbox by Winco.
It's so funny. You make that's a funny thing of, you know, from having known Sam, is like you make a movie reference and you're like, Really? No, you haven't seen Alien? It's like,
What? You haven't seen Alien?
See this? This is so normal for me. It's not even
Motherfucker!
funny. It's not even,
like where is the joke?
Oh,
yeah.
oh man. Okay, no, I'm sending you the John Wick trilogy.
I've seen John Wick, so we're good there.
Okay, good. Okay, that's something.
Yeah. I even made a John Wick reference earlier in the show. Come on, Nathan.
Okay, fair point. Fair point.
Communicado, dude. I did have I hate going back when it feels like we had a nice clean break between the first half and the second half of the show, but like, I don't know why I didn't ask this earlier. What do your people wear? Do they just wear like blue jeans?
What do you people wear?
Well, Amish wear like a super specific like old school look. I don't know if your group was like similar or what.
You know what? I couldn't have described it better myself. It's a super specific old school look.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's very similar. So the ladies obviously wear long skirts and head coverings. The whole point of like everyone's dress code is modesty.
Yeah.
So like kneecaps are like a big deal, dude. I'm not kidding. No, listen up.
Going to get a kneecaps subcategory.
No, I'm messing
do
up.
ankles do much for you?
No, so yeah, it's like long dresses, head coverings, and then the dudes are generally speaking dressing relatively normal, just like basic work jeans and whatever shirt. So nothing crazy for the guys. It's not like suspenders are not required. None of that.
No straw hats. Do you guys have like t-shirts or like just like button-up shirts or?
Yeah, but generally a button down.
Mm.
Yeah, you gotta look the plaid part, you know.
Yeah. I just imagining
great,
like Amish walking around and like randomly end up with a Mountain Dew graphic shirt. Just think nothing of it.
No. Actually, that's funny that you bring that up. No shirts with graphics.
Is that like a hard rule?
Hardish. It's like I mean I've definitely I actually this is a funny story. I had a 2A shirt that I acquired outside the compound because obviously they don't support that, and that got confiscated and destroyed without my blessing. So that's
Damn.
okay. I'll forgive them because forgiveness is also one of the big tenets that they subscribe to, and I've been blessed with that. It's worked wonders for me in my personal life. So,
yes.
But yeah, they definitely don't do t-shirts with graphics. A lot of definitely like plaid button shirts, which is great because I just rock up wearing my normal stuff, which is generally plaid, and nobody knows that I'm also carrying a gun.
Yeah. I am the gray man.
Oh man.
Man in Solomon's plaid shirt, baseball cap, and do you rock Oakleys?
I do, yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah, I'm a stereotype. It's okay.
It's amazing. Oh fuck.
But
yeah.
that juncture of my life in which I don't know if we should talk about this. Maybe we should delete this part. The juncture of my life in which I interacted with you, I was definitely more gray man than I am on a normal day-to-day basis.
Like when you say gray man, what do you mean?
Like the stereotypical gray. Like this part's going away, so I'm allowed to say this. But I drive a Jeep, and it's fucking badass.
Boo this man! This is not being deleted. He will now be shamed.
Wait, hold on. Someone please, while I'm talking, think back to what we were talking about before this got removed. I think it was gray man stuff, but I was wearing very stereotypical, like Vertex / Solomon / Oakley /
yeah.
So stereotypical. I don't generally do that.
My get up is funny because it's like half like stereotypical gray man. I'll be rocking like Solomon's and fucking cool pants, and then I'll have like a tie-dye shirt and like or like some punk tee and just like it's like I guess he's just like a granola punk dude or something that likes hiking. And it's like, no, I have a gun on my fucking body.
Yeah, well, that's the that's your look. My look is like, if I were to just dress like how I would want to dress on a day-to-day basis, you'd be like, oh, that is the most stereotypical gray man,
Yeah.
gray man that I've ever seen in my life. And that's
Everything
just
is
how I,
performance oriented.
yeah, that's just how I like. It's how I'm comfortable. I'll just wear like basic jeans, good comfortable shoes, and
Oh no,
like
dude,
a gap.
I'm about done with like Converse. Like I was I needed I was never a Vans kid because I'm not a skater. I fall off skateboards, but like instead I was I always rocked Cons, and I'm like, all right, I'm about over fucking flat-footed shoes. Like I'm just gonna wear um fucking hike like comfortable hiking boots the rest of my days. I don't care if I'm at a show. I don't care if on the range at the store. Like I'm, it's just hiking shoes with good insoles now, like orthopedic insoles.
It's the way to go.
I don't give a
And
fuck what anyone thinks.
I have after this we're going to segue back into the show, but like I have the best insoles in the business, and they come from a pretty cool company, and I really enjoy them, and I have them in almost every single pair of shoes that I wear on a daily basis. They're
I'm
Hell
from
super
yeah.
curious. What is it?
Core Performance Ice Fits insoles.
I did not know they made insoles.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
don't anymore. They got rid of them, but we should
Oh.
all harass them and get them to bring them back because they're awesome, and I would buy more.
They do. They do a pre-order twice a year for them, so they still make them,
Nice.
just in limited
Nice.
quantities. They
Guys,
might.
hop on that pre-order because these things are badass. I literally don't have a pair of boots that doesn't have them.
No,
Like
same.
they are awesome.
I rock them in my work shoes and my hiking shoes and my rocking shoes, well, boots. So,
Yeah. But to go back to segue back into the gray man thing, yeah. I've definitely fallen prey to being the kind of guy that dresses in a way that you would probably pick out as a quote unquote gray man.
this man
However,
clearly rocks a gun.
However, that being said, it is important to think about the gray man concept in the concept of fifth generation warfare. And I think this is one of the reasons why I've really enjoyed hearing you talking about disguises and stuff like that. Because being that guy that's rocking sweats and hoodies and has an obscene amount of capability on your person,
Yeah.
if you're not the kind of person that usually rocks sweats and a hoodie, like that is a good thing. That's a good capability to have because if you think about this type of environment, this type of engagement that we're probably going to encounter at some point in our future, there's a likelihood that it's not an army versus army thing. There's a likelihood that it's part of your day-to-day existence. And if it is part of your day-to-day existence, you need to figure out a way to distance it from your day-to-day existence. And that's gonna
IRA.
come in.
Yep.
That's gonna come in the form of. I mean, yeah. And historically, there's been a million different examples of this. And like, there's been people that have worked a day job and then gone and supported whatever freedom movement currently exists during the night. And I'm not saying that anyone should do that. In fact, you definitely shouldn't. You should get out and vote. But like, it's something worth thinking about for sure.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, get out and vote.
It's going super well so far.
Yes. Business casual. I think like having a good like I try and suit pill everyone. I suit pilled BR last year, which was
Yeah, he did. And talking to Gray Man, they're pretty fucking cool.
I like him.
I
I want him back on.
will tell-
I'm getting one of his suits made bespoke, actually.
Fuck yeah.
I will tell you this.
Yeah.
You will get more access. You will get more forgiveness on a daily basis if you are dressed professionally and tidily than you will if you're wearing pretty much anything else. Dressing as a
100%.
gray man and walking in somewhere and just expecting to be treated well is not going to happen.
Yeah.
Dressing professionally and rocking up somewhere, you can get away with more than you ever even care to imagine.
It is wild. I started just I used to travel a lot, and I started just wearing a suit every time I traveled, just because I did it once because I it was more of a pain in the ass to bring my suit there for the event and then like iron it and unfuck it than it was to just wear it for the flight. And holy shit, I noticed people treated me so differently. It was a world away of difference. I would say, like, in part of the gray man thing, like, dress to your environment. If you're in the financial district of New York, you're probably like going to get noticed dressed like a slob, and the inverse is
Yeah.
also true.
Well,
Like,
maybe not. If you're in the, I mean,
yeah,
depending on where you are in New York, you could dress as a slob and just get away with it. Also,
yeah,
depending on what you're doing, it totally depends what you're doing. If you're walking down the street in New York at a relatively fast pace, dressed like a homeless person, everyone's going to look at you weird. But if you're
yeah,
just hanging out on the street corner dressed as a homeless person, no one's going to give a shit.
yeah. Dress to your environment and what you're doing.
Yeah, and then on the opposite side of that spectrum, if you're standing in the street corner, squatted down on the side of the road wearing a nice suit, everyone's gonna be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah,
But if
100%.
you're moving somewhere, if you're going somewhere looking just yeah, it's situational awareness. Just be aware of your surroundings and act accordingly. It's really that simple.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry, I was distracted. My mother was calling me for some reason.
Oh, do you want to pause for a sec?
No.
Your mother's
I-
important.
Who would have thought?
How
No,
fucking early is it for her there? It's 5 hours ahead of you, so she's up
No,
very
that-
early or very late.
It's tomorrow, and what time is it there? It's tomorrow plus a few hours.
It's exactly 3 a.m. over there. If it's GMT.
It's three almost 4 p.m. in the evening tomorrow.
Oh! I thought UK. My bad.
No. Anyway. No, it'll be fine. I'm just gonna once we wrap up, I'll probably just hop on and chat with her then. But while
Yeah.
I pack my fucking ruck. But what was I gonna say?
Dad advice: talk with your folks.
Yes.
It's the only parents you're ever gonna have.
True enough. Damn, Sam, you just jumped into the dad advice segment.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you were the one who declined a call from your mom. Come on, dude.
I,
Be better.
I
Be
did that
better.
out of
Be
I did that
family
out of-
oriented.
I call my mum weekly. B.R absolutely loves his mother, I'll have you know. I am a good son. We are a very rare case of a military family without divorced parents. Sorry to all my fellow military brats who have divorced parents, because it's probably most of you. It's true. All of my buddies, every single one of them, fucking divorced families. I fucking like literally blessed by the fact that they had their shit together, and just a couple of best friends that married instead of some awful benefit scheme that disguised itself as a family. Like, good god. But
government
anyway,
or a happy marriage. You can only pick one.
yes. Ain't that the fucking truth? Well, no, Sam. As we get into our final little bit here, we hit the 2-hour mark. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the listeners before we get going?
Shoot, good question.
Whether it's relevant to our conversation, like anything we missed on kind of either conversation or anything else.
Not that I can think of. This was pretty comprehensive. Obviously, if there's more questions, shoot me a DM. I'm pretty fun to talk to, if I do say so myself, and I'd be happy to interact with people that have questions about this kind of stuff, because it's fun. It's fun stuff. We should, as serious as all of these topics are, we should also enjoy them, because the truth of the matter is, we're all going to be dead in less than 100 years. So we should make the most of the time that we currently have, because we're not going to get more of it. So
Yeah.
make sure that what you're doing is enjoyable, and enjoy what you're doing. And if you're not, change it, because you're not going to have a second go at this. So make the most of every single second that you have.
Yeah.
Hell fucking yeah. No, I mean, seriously, like, a lot of... There's this saying that goes around, you know, like, it's LARPing till it's not. And, like, the inverse is somewhat true. Like, it's great that what is effectively, like, a hobby, to a degree, like, we're all weekend warriors, or whatever you want to call it, like, figuring things out, and all the, you know, extracurriculars of that kind of mindset. Like, it's all a hobby right now. And, you know, some of us take it super seriously to the point that it's like unhealthy, and some of us take it so lax that it's barely fucking worth doing. And finding somewhere in between where it's both enjoyable as well as like, actually aids you in becoming a better, more effective and capable person, like that's a sweet spot. And I think it gets lost both directions. Like some people, like with love, they're fat fucking slobs and it's just a hobby. And some people are like so fucking drilled into this that there is no room for fun anymore. And it's like, okay, dude, what's the fucking point of being alive? Like, what am I fighting for if I'm gonna be this miserable stoic on every single factor of preparedness and like just being so autistic that you hate your life and everyone hates hanging out with you? Like, there is a fine line, and it's so important to find it.
Yeah, yeah, it is a fine line, and like to your point, there is absolutely no guarantee that the things that we all invest so much time and money into, training and acquiring these skills and acquiring these assets, there's no guarantee that any of this stuff will ever be an applicable skill.
Yeah.
And an applicable resource, and
God
hopefully,
willing, it's
like
not.
God willing, it's not. Yeah, hopefully it's not. Hopefully we never, ever, ever have to do anything that's even remotely close to the stuff that we talk about on the show on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But it's one of those situations where you're better off knowing it and having the skills and having the assets than not. And in the meantime, you might as well enjoy yourself. So enjoy yourself. Make the most of it.
Yeah. On a final little ramble on that particular topic before we leave it, like something that's worth keeping in mind with that is like when you get into the conversation of like, oh, is it even worth it for X person to learn this stuff? It's like, if like not practicing with a sword and bow on Sunday, like the whole, old Anglo-Saxon and basically every single other tribal form of man before the Industrial Revolution, like we all trained with weapons at some point in our weekly thing, no matter what your job was. Like there was a time when that was just what human beings did. And when we stopped passing those skills on to our sons, we became tax cattle. And
Yeah.
like, as silly as LARPing or training or like doing any of this shit, as silly as it can be sometimes, or like there's moments of like, I think we've all done it where it's like, how fucking paranoid and crazy am I? And it's like, I don't really care. Like once you get the full picture in mind, it's like this could be like a silly waste of time exploit. But at the same time, I kind of don't care because I want my kids and their children to all embody this mentality that like I'm not going to be a soft target. Even if nothing ever comes of it, I hope nothing ever comes of it. But I still want, I want 4 generations that never have to harm or infinite generations really, but multiple generations that never have to harm another human being, but absolutely have the capability to protect themselves should they need to. So,
Yeah, and
ramble over.
No, that directly ties in to what my whole mission is, as far as the information that I'm trying to put out, and the subjects that I'm trying to shed light on, is proliferating the knowledge and skill sets, like literally proliferating it, getting as many people as knowledgeable as possible on all of these things that we've talked about throughout this show, is going to do more to prevent us ever having to use those skills than anything else we could possibly do. And at the end of the day, that is the mission. We're trying not to like have to use some of the like we're trying not to use violence. Let's be honest. And that's a pacifistic stance, but in the most in a very weird way that probably most pacifists wouldn't necessarily agree with. And we can ask Mitch about this. I would love to have a conversation with him about it because I know he subscribes to this ideology. But this is something that is going to do more people having a lot of capability or even a little capability in a broad spectrum of skill sets, capabilities, is going to do more to maintain the current level of freedom that we have and potentially gain more freedom than any one specific skill set or one specific asset or a bunch of dudes with guns or one dude with 50 guns. Like, it's really not going to do as much as an entire populace that is pretty well versed in all things fifth generation warfare and can identify attacks against themselves and can do something about it. And I think that's generally points directly towards the best thing that we could possibly be doing for ourselves, which is gaining these capabilities and making sure that we're staying on the cutting edge so that we don't get left behind and make ourselves more difficult to subjugate. Because at the end of the day, if you want to be subjugated, you're in the wrong place, because this is America and we don't do that here.
Fuck yeah. America! It's gonna be another On War episode ending with the national anthem. America! Fuck yeah. Wait, Sam, did you already give us dad advice?
I guess kinda. My dad advice would just be live your life, enjoy yourself. You're gonna be, if you're listening to this show, think to yourself how many years it's going to be until you're dead, like very dead. It's going to be less than 100. I almost guarantee it, because that's just the way things go. Make sure that every moment of your existence is enjoyable. Make sure that you're doing the most that you possibly can with it. Make sure that you're living in a way that you're not going to regret in the future. And just enjoy your life. Live your life. Do all the things that you want to do. Create a bucket list and then do the things in that bucket list, because we don't have an infinite amount of time here. So reality check, you're going to die someday. Make the most of all the time in between now and then.
Based.
Well,
Nathan, you got any last things for the listeners?
get a suit. Cheat code getting a suit. Find your measurements and look on eBay. All sorts of gray market suit supply places going out of business liquidate their shit for like sub $100. I got a Hugo Boss red there for like $90, and it fits me perfect.
Nice.
Pre-tailored. Use that to not get into areas that you need to dress nice for. You cannot fit a USW or an MP5K inside a laptop bag. Don't do that.
Damn,
Who would ever thought to think of doing that?
I need to get me a wedding suit. I gotta check out everyone going out of business thanks to the economy.
Yep. Full-stir Enigmas work really well with suits too. I have not carried a full-size 1911 with an X300 on it into sensitive areas.
Based. Hell yeah. I don't really have that advice, so fuck it. Be good. Call your mom.
Yes.
Yes.
Call your mom. You need to do that like right now, motherfucker.
I'm about to
be a
call
good
my
boy.
mom.
Be a good son.
I'm an incredibly good, or I do my best. Aside from moving thousands of miles away, I'm a pretty good son.
Yes.
Good. No regrets.
No regrets.
Not one.
We went the entire show without saying tickle, so we're gonna have to fix that. So
that's added in post, my guy. You don't think that's my voice, do you, motherfucker?
No, but you should go and
tickle
your local politician.
Tickle
your local senator.
Yeah. Hell yeah. On that
tickle
your local healthcare CEO.
All right, that's 3. All right,
that's 3.
We out. Thank you, Sam. Go and check him out. Falcon Ground Link on Instagram. We'll be linking that in the description. You guys are a pleasure. Thank you everyone for listening, and until next time, hopefully we can post the fucking promo for this, because we couldn't post it for the last episode without intense problems. But anyway, until next time. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. See you.